Your Honor, my name is Richard Thompson. I'm a professional land surveyor, number 6413, the state of California. And I was hired by Simon to assist with one of the conditions that was brought up by the city of Hemet regarding the fact that the project in question is on 2 legal lots. And as part of the code requirement, it's to merge those parcels into one legal parcel.
When was the merger supposed to take place?
So we started that in 2021. So the status is that it's on hold with the planning department. It's essentially cleared the plan check parts of it with the various city consultants who reviewed the technical legal descriptions that I wrote and the plat maps that get recorded with that legal description. And as part of the process, the city planning folks have to review what we call Exhibit C. So Exhibit C is a site plan to show that the proposed merger does not conflict with any of the city's zoning or code requirements, especially for setbacks. Now, because this property was subdivided in the late 1800s, early 1900s, there were no codes. The buildings were built essentially at the property lines, and the building straddles the property lines. There's actually a legal agreement for a party line wall, which the merger would basically extinguish that need because it was 2 individual property owners. Now it's under Simon's ownership. So by doing the merger in one ownership, you have one legal parcel. That was also done for the purposes of the fire requirements, where you would have to have 2 separate fire permits and separate fire systems for each individual parcel. So the fire department was also recommending, and the merger was important in order to continue to process it with the fire department. The city has held up the approval of the merger individually due to not wanting to approve the Exhibit C site plan that was prepared by the applicant. When we took on the project, we understood that the Exhibit C could not be based on a current survey because there was no survey data for downtown area. And subsequent to that, the city hired an outside consultant. Once Caltrans came through about 2 years ago, they reestablished survey control for the intersecting streets, specifically Harvard. And that allowed for an outside consultant that the city hired to produce a survey, which my understanding is not recorded with the county yet. But they determined that the buildings were on the property lines, as everybody expected and assumed. And with that approval of that document by the city and the original submittal of the Exhibit C site plan, it was our understanding that the city planning department found that that was acceptable. When we started the project, the planning director at that time, H.P. Kang, had allowed that site plan to be used for all the prior permits that we've been talking about during this hearing, and that was going to be acceptable. And then as we went through the process, they deemed that it wasn't acceptable, and until the survey was done by their outside consultant, they didn't really have any evidence of where the buildings are. From a legal survey standpoint, the buildings became monuments themselves once all the old survey control that was set, like I said, in the late 1800s, early 1900s was gone. You don't have any evidence of that boundary, the buildings become monuments. And so that was our position to them, was that the buildings exist where they are. The survey won't change that. And so that was part of the acceptance that I understood that the original planning director had given to Simon and to the other parts of Simon's team for them to go forward with the permits. So based on that, we did not conduct a survey, and the city did their own survey, and the results were as expected. So the merger at this point is held up because the planning director has not issued a letter clearing the site for planning. So the merger's held up right now.
When did the city complete their survey?
I believe they completed it about a year ago, but my understanding is the record of survey that shows that the buildings are on the property lines, my understanding is it's not been recorded. I have an unrecorded copy of that from the survey company that did that work for the city.
And so, how long have you been doing this type of work?
I've been doing this work since about 1981.
And based on your background, did you have to go to school before?
I did. I went to Cal Poly Pomona.
So did I. Okay.
Good job.
So, based upon, so you worked in this area since the 1980s?
Yes.
And then, in this
would think it could go through a normal process in 90 days plus.
Okay.
So we're at about 3 years now.
2001, right?
Yeah, 4 years.
Yeah, like four.
It's been a while.
All right, so based on your experience, is this on the outside of how long it should take, or is it still within?
It seems unreasonable to me, especially if the issue for the Exhibit C is that it's not recorded with the legal and the plat. It's purely for planning review. And I've had long conversations with the county surveyor regarding this, that exhibit is purely for the planning department to determine that approving the merger does not conflict with their zoning or general plan, specifically for setbacks. In this case, there are no setbacks. The buildings are on the property line, straddles the property line. The whole purpose was to eliminate the fact that it was straddling the property line. So having a very detailed survey that was going to be very costly at the time. I don't know what the city paid their consultant, but I'm sure it was a fair amount of money. And kudos to the city for at least taking on that responsibility and not burdening Simon with that. But the delay has put us at this point where even something as simple as a merger has been delayed, I think, in an unreasonable amount, in my opinion. I don't know the specifics of that, but my opinion would be that yes, it could, because the whole purpose of the merger was to allow the project to go forward. I think it was part of the SDR requirements, if I'm not mistaken. So holding that up, I think, could delay permits with the fire department, but I'm not an expert in that.
And can it delay other aspects of construction and planning?
I believe so. Okay, thank you.
Do you have any questions? No questions?
He said he wasn't sworn in either.
Okay. All right. Yeah, can you raise your right hand?
Yeah, my name
Raise your
is,
right hand.
yeah,
Can you hereby swear or affirm that you have the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
thank you.
All right. Please proceed.
Mr. Son, what is your current occupation?
I'm a structure engineer.
And what kind of formal education do you have to be a structural engineer?
I got a 4 years college education, and then took the necessary exam from fundamental engineering to PE and then SE.
Okay. And are you a licensed structural engineer in the state of California?
Yes, my license number is 5266, and structure engineer.
And how long have you been working with Simon Chu?
I believe it's about 7 to 8 years.
And have you been performing duties for him related to being a structural engineer?
Yes. In fact, I'm the engineer of record on 118 North Harbor and 124, 126 North Harbor Pelican.
Okay. And to your knowledge, the addresses at 118 and then 124 through 126, have those been, has there been a seismic retrofit to those buildings?
It's an existing building. To my knowledge, there were existing seismic retrofit permit, and it was a sense complete, the construction.
Quick question.
Yeah.
This is breaking up background. So you are the engineer of record on 118, 122 procedure
Yes, I believe.
It's on the notice.
I wasn't aware that the 122, they had two addresses. That one building on the north side is, they call it 124 and 126. Also the building, as far as the county records, they only show 126. Yeah, they don't have 124 on the county record.
All right, go ahead, please.
And what kind of things did you do as it relates to the address of 118 and then 126 through 124? Did you do any planning or calculations?
Yeah, I was there are 3 parts, and 118 first was a post house remodel and addition, and that's for 118. And that plan was approved and permitted, and the construction was pretty much complete. And then there was either separate permit or addendum permit to that post house addition, which is the 118 patio cover. That was designed separately and was submitted to the city and also was approved. And then there's a patio cover for 124 and 126. And they try to do the same thing as the patio cover, similar looking and columns, everything, 118. I believe that also was approved and permitted.
And
Go ahead.
no, go ahead,
Okay.
please.
Yeah, so we provided the engineering design part. Yeah, we did the calculation and prepared the framing plan, foundation plan, and details and calculation answers, plan check questions. Yeah, we did it. Structure engineering work.
And when was the last time you were at the addresses in question?
Can you repeat?
Well, did you go with the other structural engineer and other city officials and Mr. Chu approximately 2 weeks ago and do a walkthrough?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And I guess just kind of tell us about the brick that is on the building. How thick is it? Is there any kind of reinforcement that can't be seen, just looking at it?
Yeah, we did look at the existing building and the brick, and that building 118, 124, 126, I believe it was built in 1920. It was built in 1925. Yeah. I'm sorry. Let me, yeah, it was built in 1925. So that's 90 years old at that building. With the age of the building, naturally, and that some of the mortar become sandy and losing. There are some holes, and I would say 90 years old building built at that time. That's probably common.
Based on my calculation, 100, but based on the age of the building, did you find it structurally unsound, that wall?
That wall essentially, especially on the outside of some of the photos probably testimony by the city's engineer. You can saw some of the photo is from the parking lot on the north side of the 126 and 124. And that building, that entire building was reinforced and retrofitted by steel column and the spacing. I don't remember the exactly distance in between the column. It is in the neighborhood of 6 to 8 feet apart. That steel column all the way in the building from the foundation all the way protrude over the roof. So basically, those brick wall is become a veneer. It's like a brick veneer. It's the majority of the load will be supported by the steel frame instead of brick itself.
Okay, and so is the current patio structure, is that attached to the veneer or is it attached to a steel pole?
Is part of the patio cover on the roof level is sitting on the veneer.
On the veneer?
Yeah, on the brick wall. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So based on, so you would agree that the veneer probably couldn't take the seismic load of the two-story building?
I believe that was essentially designed as a one-story just patio cover. It's not a two-story building.
And currently, you've seen the building currently, right?
Yes.
And would you say it's a two-story or one-story building now?
Now it's on 124, 126 is a one-story, but they were intended to maybe install a two-story floor. But on 118 it's partially is two-story, but the two-story portion, the majority of the second floor is supported by the new addition bathroom, and underneath is a new construction is compliant to the building code enforced at that time.
And I'm assuming that you heard the other structural engineer testify earlier this morning, correct?
Yes.
And with respect to the issue regarding the plywood that was somewhat weathered and I believe bending, is there a way to fix that?
Yeah, that needed to be replaced. And I believe I did a letter, and I wrote a letter back to 2024, and recommended remove those roof sheeting and replace it.
And with respect to the I believe it was the eye joints?
Eye joist.
Yes. Can you tell us your expert opinion regarding the current conditions of those?
Yes, the eye joist, and it seems to in the middle span of the roof, and the joist was carved a little bit short than needed to be. So they added some plywood on each end of the joist or on each side of the beam to make that beam a little bit wider to compensate the roof, the eye joist length. And it's not it's not an engineered solution. So it needed to be fixed. And but as far as eye joist, and eye joist is just is a type of engineered floor or roofing framing system. And
Were you done with your thought?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that the eye joist needs to be removed reinstall?
Well, that can be, remove and reinstall. We have a thorough way to do it, and you can make the beam a little bit wider and to compensate the shortening of the edges.
Okay.
Yeah.
And with respect to the foundation, I know that the other structural engineer referenced one of the, well, I think the only area where the foundation was somewhat crumbling to the the right of the gas meter. What can be done as far as the crumbling of the foundation right there?
That foundation can be, can be fixed, and because the current 120, that portion, it is at the end, east face of 124 and 126. Prevent the dirt or any foundation or movement on that brick wall.
That recommendation that you made regarding the foundation, was that also included in the letter that you wrote in 2024 to the city?
That's correct.
Okay. And then with respect to the masonry and the bricks, the structural engineer indicated that there was a lot of areas that had void and had that crumbling material that was breaking down that essentially held the bricks together. What is your expert opinion on any safety issues with respect to that, and if they can be fixed?
That's a gap needed to be filled, and either with grout or mortar or epoxy, or we have so many ways we can fix that. And yes, it needed to be filled. That gap needed to be filled.
And is there one particular filling that's better than the other? Because it appears that grout was used when it was built. Is there something that would be longer lasting than grout?
I think the grout today is much more stronger as it used to be, and back to 90 years ago, and when they laid the brick walls, they used a mortar. And the mortar could have a very little cement or have a more, or if you do grout today, the grout can easily achieve 2,000 psi compressive strength. It's probably stronger than the brick itself. So there are a couple of ways, not necessarily just one way, and
now let's talk about those steel columns that there's been some discrepancies on what the permit allowed, whether or not it was 15 and a half feet or whether or not it was 22 feet. The fact that it's 22 feet as presently standing, does that cause you as a structural engineer any safety concerns given the height and the weight and how wide the building is, where the patio and the cover is?
Well, the steel column was designed as a cantilevered column. The column acting like a flagpole, and so they fix at the bottom, and so when the earthquake comes, and the steel strength can hold the column in place. There are some deflection, and when you have a high wind and you have a palm tree and you get a vibrating, there are some movement, but they are not going to fail. as far as because we designed that per the 2019 building code, and so the design in the earthquake event only have a 2% of the chance in 50 years. So in the last 115 years, there are 64 earthquake happens within 100 kilometers, 63 miles radius from the city of Hemet. That's a 5.0 or larger. So, the chance, we can do the math and calculate the chance, and what the chance are, you have a really large earthquake and happened just right here in Hemet. Is that possible? Of course, yes. And because back to 1918, there was 6.7 magnitude earthquake happens just 1 mile from here. I believe that earthquake demolished majority of the building, in Hemet. That was happened 150 years ago. So.
And what is the footing like with respect to these steel columns?
The footing we utilize, and there are smaller pad, is 2 foot square underneath in the center with the steel columns that called an erection pad. And so we pour that footing first, and then you can place your column in place. And then we pour grade beam with reinforcement and ties on both directions. So each column, if it's on interior, you're gonna have a foresight. If it's on the and the exterior, you have a T shape, or at the corner condition, you have a 2-side grade beam to hold them in place. Yeah.
And is that, in this particular case, given the patio structure itself and then the length of the steel beams, is that footing set up safe?
Yes.
And how so?
Well, the grid beam, our grid beam is 18-inch wide by 24-inch deep, and with the reinforced, reinforcement is much stronger than steel tube and 8 by 8 by 40-inch. They are much stronger and more rigid than the steel column itself. So, in other words, you have a grid beam is like basically we are like planting a root for the trees, a big tree, but we have a root extend over, so it holds them up.
Okay. Right now, as the buildings stand with the patio and the patio cover, is there an imminent danger to the patio collapsing completely or partially?
I don't think so. I don't believe so.
And why do you not think so?
Well, first of all, the patio cover was designed to hold in the completed roof load and with all the fixture of the light, and maybe have some plumbing, maybe have some drywall and ceiling underneath it. But right now there was no drywall, and there were no piping and So the design dead load is not there yet.
Okay, so just to make sure I understand, so you're saying that as the building currently exists, that it doesn't over this because it hasn't actually fully been completed, right?
That's correct.
All right, but then if it's fully completed, with all of the drywall and all of the weight that you were just talking about, would it pose a risk?
Needed to do some reinforcement for that structure.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you would have to go back and modify the design in order to accommodate the new size of the building.
That's correct.
Okay, and so your analysis about the safety of the building primarily is based on like what was in the initial drawings and permits that were initially obtained.
Right.
Okay, and then so the structure of the building, if the building is built out as it exists right now, and like then you put all of the plumbing, everything, all the bells and whistles in it, would that structure be safe? Without doing anything else outside of just filling everything in?
Not up to the current standard, needed reinforcement.
Okay.
Okay, so I think essentially what you're saying is there needs to be a little bit more work done in order to essentially complete the patio and the patio cover to make it safe, right?
That's correct. And also that's one, the gentleman just testified before me, and that's one of the reasons in holding up this modification of the plan, because if there's a two lot and the structure per building code, you have to separate it and have a seismic separation, and in order to comply with the building code. But if you merge two lots together, and then you can connect all the roof structure together as a one structure. So that's gonna dramatically change the structure approach, how to reinforce this.
Okay, and the merger hasn't been completed yet, right?
No,
And then, but there is no division between the different parts of the patio structure, right?
no. The current as it is, there are no separation between the two parts, 124, 26, and 118.
So was it designed that way in anticipation of the lot merger?
That was the owner's intention, that, as I understand.
Fair to say that the patio is not complete at this point, not counting plumbing and lights and all of that, but there still has to be work done as far as the patio floor goes, correct?
Yes, and 124, 126, there are no concrete slab upgrade, no the small retaining.
Okay, so more work needs to be done essentially, just from a structural perspective to make it look like a patio with a cover.
That's correct.
Okay.
One follow-up question. So the structure, is the structure as it exists right now compliant with the permit that you helped design?
No. Yeah, there are some discrepancy between the approved plan and the as a built structure.
Okay, and then so the structure, particularly the height of the structure, is that compliant?
Not compliant.
Okay,
Right.
please ask your questions.
The fact that the height of the structure isn't compliant, does that make it a safety concern? The fact that the height is different?
Not immediately concerned, but in order not to comply to the code as well, because not comply with the current building code standard, in order to keep the current high, we need to do some reinforcement and do some work.
And let me ask you this, since the drawing up of the plans for the patio and the patio cover, that was all done under a different year of building code, correct?
You mean the seismic retrofit or
Yes.
seismic retrofit was performed and was permitted earlier. Yes, it was on earlier code.
And with respect to what has already been constructed, like the steel beams, the plywood and all of that, was that done under a different building code year? So there was a law that applied when it was approved, and now the law has changed and it is not compliant with the new law.
Well, yes, it's under different version of the building code, and when we applied the permit for that patio cover, it was under 2019 California Building Code, and right now we are in force 2022 California Building Code. The code version are different, but as far as the structure aspect of the design is not much change. They still follow the same ASCE 7-16. That's the loading code. Basically how much loading you should apply, what's the seismic design formula, and all that. And we both 2019 and the 2022 building code are following ASCE 7-16. So that's on the loading part of the same. As far as the steel, we have to change the steel for maybe 50 years, 60 years, and it's still the ASTM, those standard have been there for a long time. So it's still the same standard. Yes, on the version of the building code, and not much on the actual structural impact.
Okay.
Do you know how the building went from 15 feet to 22, made that decision?
I wasn't aware of that.
When did you become aware of that?
I think I just made aware recently. When I visit, I do visual observation. I really didn't measure it. Yeah.
Just a few things. Have you ever submitted a soils report to the city for this patio?
No, I'm not responsible for soils report, and we use the code minimum as defined on building code, California Building Code, chapter 18.
So no.
No.
And just for clarification, are you suggesting that the patio structure should remain connected to the block wall?
Well, the connection have a several way to connect it, and we can connect it with a separation on one direction, and while connected on one direction. In another word, on east and west direction, we can have a slot connection at the floor level, but we are not talking about a floor level since they are not. The design was one story, not two story. And on the top connections, in fact, is a hinge joint. They allow you to move this direction. you can land more.
So you still favor connecting those two structures?
That will be the most, logical way. Yeah, definitely you can separate. Yeah, that's the different approach.
Okay, let me just pause. So, I think he's asking you, as the building exists right now, it's
Mhm.
connected.
Mhm.
But if you were to, are you saying that even if you went back to the original design, would that still need to be connected?
Yes.
Okay. Would the original design pose any safety risk to the structure based upon the weight and all of the different variables that you discussed?
I do not believe so because the patio structure or patio cover are such a lightweight structure compared to the brick walls. And the brick walls, if you have like a 12 inches of brick, each square feet, you have 135, 140 pounds per square feet of the brick wall itself. And while the patio cover is up in the single digit, it's not a single digit, it is double digit, maybe in 14 pounds to 15 pounds per square feet for the roof structure. So if you have 2,000 square feet of the patio cover, that's compared to the brick wall, it's proportionally, it's a small percentage of additional load.
But if we did the assumption that we're going back to what the original design,
Mhm.
do you think that as the building exists right now, and you were building out, could you have the two-story building connected to the brick wall safely?
We can have, we can detail out in such a way to connect it safely, allow them to have a horizontal movement when the earthquake comes.
But you would have to do some modifications to the design.
Yes. Right.
And can you clarify again, when did you become aware that this patio structure did not conform to the plans that you drew?
I believe back to when they started the construction, back to 2021, and due to the approved portion of the bathroom addition and that is rear of the amenities, and that portion is become roof is not utilized as the extended mezzanine of the 180. So that's why we want to increase the height of the patio. So otherwise, that mezzanine does not have a problem. And in this weather, it's hard to see outside without the shade.
So you knew since 2021, roughly?
I believe back to 2021, and that's why there's a lot merge and try to merge a lot so we can reinforce the design accordingly.
And when you designed the original plans in 2021, did you contemplate a structure like the one that exists today?
Can you repeat it one more time?
When you designed the original 2021 building plans, did you make those designs with the understanding that there would be a much taller, a much larger structure that exists today?
No, at that time, no.
Got it.
Good afternoon, Mr. Strain. You've already been sworn, correct?
Yes.
Jason, how do you know Simon?
I've known Simon for a little over probably 15 years now. We've been helping with some of those projects off now during the time.
Okay, and there was a short-term period where you weren't working with him on some of his projects, right?
Sure.
And from today's date back, how long have you been working with him on projects?
I came back on the projects in 2023. Yeah, October 2023 when he got the notice of intent to do the walkthroughs.
Okay. And have you been the one to do a lot of the communicating with the city and the city officials on behalf of Simon?
Yes.
And is that due to a little bit of a language barrier?
Yes.
Okay. And would you say that you have maintained pretty constant contact with the city or the officials?
Yes, and from my research and understanding too, prior to my arrival in October, there was a substantial amount of documented communication taking place as well.
Okay, and you know that because you had the email address of Mr. Chu's former assistant, right?
Yes.
And you've been able to access those emails? Yes? And talk to me about the 118 building. When was the permit approved for the patio and the cover?
The original permit was approved in July 6th of 2020 under permit W 2007-019, and that was for the original trellised 15.5-foot patio cover that Mr. Gillespie refers to. And at that time, once work started commencing, Simon realized that 15.5 feet, which it was originally designed because they were above a couple of the windows at the rear of the building. There was a couple of brick archways. It was originally designed to go just above those archways. And in looking at it in reality, if you were to use the addition, the permitted addition under that TI as additional seating, you'd be staring at the top of the roof. And also you'd be having from that section. So it was at that time plans were put in place to do a plan revision to pull that roof line up so it matches the top of the existing roof at the back of 118, so that it would be able to float directly over that existing parapet. Yeah, the plan revision was submitted to the city in January 23rd of 2021. And that's in our binder that is Exhibit B on the brief binder. At the time, I believe they were. Now this is, keep in mind this is in the middle of COVID, and all of the meetings were being taking place over on Zoom. And unfortunately, there were inconsistencies with things being uploaded and uploaded properly, and approvals were given by Zoom or over the phone or in meetings. One of which is you saw the foundation permit that altered. There were a number of inconsistencies that took place.
Did it make things pretty confusing on what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do?
Absolutely. So at that time, you got to figure too, that not only was it COVID and everything was supposed to be done over Zoom, and we weren't doing a whole lot of in-person, but it was at the time when they were first bringing E-Tracker online. E-Tracker wasn't fully functioning, and the functions at best were negligible. So it was very inconsistently used, if at all, when things were uploaded or available. You can kind of see if you try to go through and research older permits, it's very difficult. To the extent where we did have a request by the building official at the time, Ms. Whitmire, to provide our working copy of wetlands so that she could have them scanned because the city had lost theirs.
Okay. Now, with respect to 124 and 126 as it relates to the patio and the patio cover, was that particular project, was that approved?
Yes, there was a minor site development review that approved the patio structures in 124 126. That was approved on June 15th of 2021. You have that too as well. That site development review did show the current height of that patio structure. I believe you guys went through some of that SDR earlier in the presentation. And that was a minor site development review.
Minor site development. What is the procedure for minor site development?
So we had to submit plans for third-party plan check. So they went through the I believe it was CSG at the time, or 40. Actually, I think it was 40. Cities changed their outsourced plan reviews several times, but so the plans went out to 4-leaf. It came back to city staff. City staff does their review, puts together the minor site development review package and their recommendations. That goes to the community development director at the time, and seeing as it was a minor, he had the administrative approval, approved that with conditions. One of which the conditions was the lot line adjustment. So that was something that was to be worked on. But all of that is covered in the site development review there. The site development review is exhibit C. Sorry. Site development review is tab 4. At that time, since we already submitted the plan revisions for 118, Ms. Whitmire asked us to submit the plans for 124, 126 for the patio structure as well. That's when we submitted for the patio foundation and beams, and later we learned once she had issued a stop work order that that was altered, and that's
Are you talking about the red line?
yes.
I actually gave, I don't think it was in the binder, but I did give him a copy
I think
of
that's
that.
in the small binder.
You mentioned a stop work order. When you got, do you recall approximately when the stop work order came from Ms. Brettmeyer?
Stop work order was 2021. I believe it was 12th of August. If I'm not mistaken.
So it would have been a couple months after there was an approval, right?
Yes.
And when the stop work order came through, how much work had already been done on 118?
The entire structure was already in place. It had been inspected, the grade beams were inspected, the beams were inspected, and the nailing inspection was done on the roof structure itself. And we were cleared to spray that section with the commercial roofing. That's why on 118 you see it's not weathered like the section is on 124 and 126. 124 and 126 was marginally in place and almost ready for the roofing, but we hadn't obtained the inspection on that section of the roofing at that point.
And when that stop work order came through, and I'm assuming you guys actually stopped working on it.
Correct.
Okay. And then at some point in time, it was red tagged, correct?
That was in March of 2024, March 6th.
And were you part of initiating an investigation as it pertains to Ms. Fretmeyer?
I was involved with Simon at the time, and he asked me to be available to witness during the deposition.
Okay. And so there was an investigation done as it pertains to Ms. Fretmeyer and her interactions with Simon, correct?
Yes.
And the, I guess, ending of that investigation, the investigator believed that Mr. Chu had been treated unfairly and in a biased manner by Ms. Fretmeyer. Is that fair to say, generally speaking?
Yes, that's correct.
And during the course of...
There was a finding that was sent to us by email by the investigator at the time. And part of the claim was that it was based off of racial bias, and her finding was that it was not necessarily based off of racial bias, but it was bias.
And during the time period that you have been working with Simon from your latest adventures, were you privy to any conversations where you learned that city officials had a blanket policy to not approve any of Simon's permits?
That's with the most recent group. Yes, there was a gentleman, Mr. Martinez, Lionel Martinez, that had warned us on several occasions that we needed to take counsel. And at the time, Simon, we don't need counsel. I'm just going to waste my time. I'm going to put my head down and try to get this done. She says, no, we need counsel. And we ended up telling us why later on that he was privy to the fire chief at the time coming in the office for the building official and Lionel and telling them that Simon is to get no permits, no inspections, any of his properties.
And that statement that you heard, was that consistent with the outward actions that you witnessed with city officials during that time period?
That definitely made things much more clear.
Okay. And have you tried to work out these issues as it relates to 118, 124, and 126 with city officials, either past or present?
Yeah, tab 16 on our file shows it's a large 11 by 17 and 8 pages long. These are the record of communications that we have dating back to 2021 to include emails, to include phone calls, and numerous phone calls and emails asking for clarification. When I came back from money in planning on the SDR, to how to move forward, to contacts with the building department, how do we get this thing back on track and moving forward, and they were ignored up until that consent order was delivered on March 6th.
And you had mentioned earlier that there was commercial roofing that was sprayed on the patio cover with respect to 118, but that did not happen with 124 and 126. And why was that?
The stop work order was placed before that could take place, as well as the inspection on the mailing inspection on that particular part. During that time, we were going back and forth with the building department on electrical issues within the building, on several other issues. Every inspection that they would come would be another monument trying to get through anything. To give you an example, we had our rough and electrical inspection. It was approved. we went to do a panel upgrade, which was in the plans. So we contacted Edison to power off the building, did the panel upgrade, got the panel inspected by the city, by Edison, went to get the power turned back on. Same state it was when we had our rough and electrical. And Sarah at the time said, no, she feels unsafe, that we needed to cover every receptacle, we needed to cover every light switch. And this, Sarah, this is stuff for fine. We're still working. We don't have drywall. And we wanted to cover every receptacle. She wanted us to put blanks in every empty breaker in the breaker panel. So you guys still working? We even had a city inspector come out subsequently for a gas line inspection. And during his inspection, he passed, he left, and then he wanted to issue a disconnect order on the electrical. We didn't have electrical yet, hadn't been released. We had no electrical in the building. But he said it was blatant disregard for electrical safety. There's no electrical in the building. And he cited open panels. There was an electrician working. And had he taken the time to ask or talk to anybody on site, he would have found out that the electrician was working. He spoke with the electrician and found out that there was no power.
The brick, how much brick is associated with 118, 124, and 126?
With regards to the walls,
Yes.
they're unreinforced masonry buildings, so they're all brick, with the exception of the roofing, which is wood, but that's standard. They did have the earthquake retrofits that were done, I think in 2004 and 2006 subsequently.
And how thick would you say that masonry is? Is it just one row of bricks, or are there multiple layers to each
As far as I
wall?
can tell, the outer walls, because you can walk through doorways, they're at least 18 inches thick.
Right. I don't have any further questions.
So, the city presented a demo plan that you submitted to
Yes.
our meeting. My confusion with this is that you submitted a demo plan, but you also just testified that it's your position that you have a permit for the construction as it exists.
Correct.
Then why submit a demo plan?
Because a lot of the materials at 124 and 126 need to be replaced. They've been weathered. And that's because we've been dealing with the stop order, with this lot line adjustment, and everything else since 2021. So yes, the sheeting needs to be replaced now. It wouldn't have had we been able to do it this spring and back then. The TGI joists, probably some of them definitely need to be replaced. So we did submit a plan. And Mr. Nolasco refers to several plans. He did say he's a problem solver. The very first plan that he had us submit was take your existing plans, because we were working through doing a complete set of plans that the planning department can look at the buildings holistically. And he said, take those plans, mark on what's going to be demoed. So that's why we use those. We weren't trying to sneak in TIs or anything else. We clearly marked on those. This is going to be demoed because those plans showed the existence of how the building state is in now. Finally, he had me submit a set of plans, and he said they weren't submitted, but actually that demo set exists and was submitted. That's tab 14. This is the latest demo set that was submitted. It was submitted on 2/10/25. This set of plans, like I did draw up, that only outlines what is to be removed. And here again, We submitted the plan for remove all roof sheeting, joists and beams, metal posts to remain. And here again, when I went to review this for the hearing today, I discovered that this demo plan was, or this demo application was also altered by the building department to say demolition per approved comment document. Demolition of this unpermitted structure is pending approval from the hearing officer. So we definitely didn't write that on ours.
I'm all for variance and all, but what appeal would be for
In February, we had an appeal before you for us to be able to extend the permit, but that's March.
That was the restaurant.
Yes, this is the same one we're talking about. This patio spans the back of the restaurant.
Right, but yes, the question is, was the permit, was the application contingent on that hearing order that already was issued, or this hearing?
That was just for the restaurant TI, and at the time when we went for that extension, Ms. Oscar did mention that we would be able to get a certificate of occupancy on that, independent of what happens with the patio structure, and we deal with the patio structure there. And that's where we're at now with the patio structure. Now, as far as the extension on the interior TI, we're as far as we can physically go before we can get final. Since we spoke with you in March 5th, we had our Edison release by the state. It took them a month to file it with SCE. We didn't get power restored to the building until late May. And now Mr. Nolasco has issued a disconnect order on our gas. We don't have gas service, by the way, we're on a meter, but he's issued that order with the gas company. And we're at a standstill now to be able to get a meter on the building and cannot proceed with final.
All right. You have questions?
All right, Mr. Spring, can you please clarify for us, is it your testimony today that the patio structure as it exists was authorized by the city?
Yes, in most part. Yes, there are some deviations, and those would need to be addressed through planning. That's what we're working through.
So are you saying the 2021 approved plans approved this?
2019. 2019 is the approved plans that were that came through his building permit that was issued in 2020. That's what we were doing off the trellis. The subsequent change to the plans was done in 2021, which is 1/23/21.
Okay, and you're saying the 2021 plans authorizes the existing structure?
Yes. And the SDR as well.
So is it,
Yeah. So the changes to the TI, which they had us do first, the changes to the TI was the existing TI from 2017. That's where these changes take place. The SDR addresses 1/24/26, which was the building next door, and then encompassed the whole project. I understand it's confusing, and that's probably why in 2023, as we're working through with planning, we wanted a holistic plan that encompasses this whole thing. And it was piecemeal at the request of the building official at the time. We're trying to follow her direction, her lead. Like I said, it was COVID, and the direction was unclear at best. We all tried our best to keep our heads above water and figure out what we were doing and do things correctly. If you look at the discussions with the city, it's We've been talking the whole time. It's not like anybody's been running rogue. We've been having discussions and trying to work through how we're doing this.
So is your testimony today that the property owner believes this 2021 approval authorizes the current structure as it exists today?
For the most part, like I said, there are some deviations, and even Michael said that there's some deviations, but they don't. Those things can be handled via the new plan submittal, which one of the deviations is that they were connected. So, yes, for the most part, yeah, the plans were in place, work was done, and let me remind you that the city did inspections on them all the way up until 2021. They haven't submitted. We were held up on lot line adjustments, and planning refused to push anything through until those were done. And then also planning's requesting us to do a major site development review. She's saying that the addition is over 2,000 square feet, so it requires a major site development review, so we would have to go before the hearing officer. However, even at the last hearing, last month, she testified that a patio does not, for the purposes of an SBR, does not include an addition to the floor area. So we're not quite sure where that discrepancy lies. But that's what she's been hanging her hat on for this whole time. The hearing for 102. The Kimball Building.
And you've alleged that the city has a policy not to issue Mr. Chu any permits or approvals.
Obviously, it's not a policy that they would probably put in writing. It's the hearsay, it's what makes kind of sense.
And yet Mr. Chu obtained approvals and permits in 2021 for this pipe patio.
Yeah, we're talking about the 2023. That's what the chief sale was at.
Okay. I think
The timeline's confusing.
I think I'll call the water witnesses.
Sure. Yeah, we had a number of inspections. I've outlined them in section 16 on that. Yes, sir. Yep. Absolutely, sir.
With respect to the smaller book of exhibits that relates to the SDR 21-210 that's marked as attachment A, there are some photos after some building plans that appear to look like the back of 118, 124, and 126. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
And with these photos that are attached, these would have accompanied the request and the decision regarding the patios and the patio covers as it relates to those addresses, correct?
Correct.
And in these photos that were submitted, the 19 steel corridors or beams or whatever are depicted in all of these photos, correct?
That's correct. We're not quite sure if they're 19, but that's...
I think there were 19 of them, something like that, right?
Really?
18.
I believe it's 18.
More than 15, less than 20.
Sure.
Okay. So the city obviously knew about these because this was part of what was submitted and what was approved when you got approval for the SDR 21010.
Correct. As well as the inspection reports show that they've been inspecting those the whole way.
Okay, nothing further. describes, how did you become involved in the properties of Mr. Simon Chu?
I was retained by Mr. Chu to assist him in this matter. Focal point of my investigation is to reveal and expose the bias nature of the city council, as well as the city employees that have been transpiring against Mr. Chu.
Okay, and what have you done from an investigation perspective related to that?
We have talked to individuals that have knowledge of the things that have been transpiring with the city and Mr. Chu for quite some time, as well as, I'm not going to reveal everything right now because, of course, there's going to be some things in the future that's going to come forward. But I will say that we have talked to people. We have the pictures were showing that we've gone out and done some legwork in terms of the city to show that there is a bias behavior that's taking place here.
And have you taken photos of the properties 118, 124 through 126 Harvard?
We did take photos of 118, which is the restaurant.
And did you put those on a PowerPoint slide
Yes.
for us? Okay, you will just go ahead and explain what we're seeing.
First of all, I'd like to start off, what is bias? Bias is prejudice in favor of or against one thing, person or group compared with another, usually in a way considered to be unfair. And one of the things that we have found through our investigation, we're not done with, I want to make sure everybody's aware of that, is that Mr. Chu for many years have been suffering this bias treatment through private conversations with city officials that we will reveal, we will expose. Like I said, the focal point right now is the bias treatment and to show that the city is liable for the amount of time and money that he has lost trying to get the simple things done. You can go to the next one. So this is what 118 North Harbor looks like. This is just as of yesterday. You see the inside. We're just going to scroll through these here. This is just the inside because that's a depiction of the progress that is taking place in the building. This is going to be a very nice restaurant once it's done. We'll just keep going until. And once again, this is to show the progress and what's happening, because one of the things, and we can stop right here, because this is, what is in question. And so I was present when the city hired an engineer, came in and did his inspection. I was present there as well. So we can just keep going. We'll flip through these here. Oh, yes.
Which appears to be the back side of the building. There is a chain link fence and it looks like some other kind of fences. Is there any way for an individual to easily get into the chained off area?
Easily. With effort, you can get us anything. People do a lot of things every day. So people, if a person is determined enough, yes, they can. But the fence itself, it is on the left side. Looking at this photo, it is there's a lock. It's like a padlock, and then a chain on that, and then it's securing the fence. So there is a level of effort to assure that the average person will walk by and say, "I'm not going to go in there because obviously something's going on there."
Okay, go ahead.
You just stand here, and you just stop me when you want to ask.
And so what we're looking at is essentially the patio structure with the roof, correct?
Yes.
And is it fair to say that if you are looking at the second level of the patio, it's not an entire floor that spans from 118 all the way to 126 at this point, correct? Okay. So for instance, if you could just go back, so this picture that we're looking at, that is open with no mezzanine patio area. And is this the upper patio area that is over over 118 Harvard?
Yes. Okay, now we'll stop right
What is
here.
this?
Because you can't police the rules if you can't keep the rules. And here we have a property that is owned by the city of Hemet. Parcel number is right there. And so let's scroll through these here. We see the condition of the building. And mind you, Your Honor, this is right across from the City Hall. So they see this every day. Really? But we see the condition of this building that the city owns. We see broken glass, exposed irrigation. Your Honor, it is to go to the biases.
No bias. I don't think we should spend a whole bunch of time on it. I think what he's trying to show is selective enforcement is the analysis.
If we go back to you, please, sir. Because the last hearing, and particularly this hearing, I've heard over and over again about the safety of the city and how they're doing their job to assure that buildings are up to code. And the city owns something that you would not want in your neighborhood. When I was out here taking photos of this right here, a resident came up to me and said, "Are you doing something about this?" I said, "I don't work for the city." And he just told me all about the things that's going on. Look at the broken glass. And I'm not even going to mention what was in the driveway in the previous photos. So we just see the condition. It's meth pipe, crack pipe, right there. But it's about safety and health, correct? Broken glass. And look at the condition of this right here. This is right in a residential area, Your Honor. And the city boasts about safety, health, and welfare, about Mr. Chu's property, which is definitely not in this condition, but they don't even take care of their own. So the question becomes, why don't they take care of theirs, opposed to all these years of picking on Mr. Chu? This is another property that the city owns. Okay, so you understand what I'm saying? Okay. And so, and that's it, because I mean, it speaks for itself. So, Your Honor, my job here is to investigate and to show and reveal, and I will prove that there is biased treatment towards Mr. Chu. With the evidence that we have collected and the evidence that we are continuing to collect, as well as the people that we talk to, statements that have been made by people that used to work for the city, and for those that statements that was made by people that work for the city behind closed doors and thought it was going to be left behind closed doors. So we have proof now.
Are you serious with that respect?
No, Young. That's for another time.
Alright,
And so,
won't be able to take that into consideration,
Yes.
like the possibility of improvement at some point.
yes. So if you go back to the last one, please. Do what we say, and not what we do.
And I just have one follow-up question. As part of your investigation, were you questioning a former city worker?
Yes, I was present, yes.
And what was his name?
Mr. Lionel Martinez, yes.
And during that conversation, did he mention anything about a blanket type verbal order to not approve permits or do inspections related to Mr. Chu or any of his properties?
Yes.
So he did say that?
Yes.
Nothing further.
Did you say your timeline?
He did not give me a timeline, but I am going to be conducting further interviews where we will get everything tied down to the time, where, when, all that good stuff.
Your questions? Alright. More witnesses? Alright, the city wants to do a copy.
Someone would call Harvard Law School. All right, just to clear things up again, there are no approved plans or permits for the existing patio structure. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, you've heard about this proposed order to not issue permits. Are you aware of this, essentially?
No.
And fact, you've been trying to help Mr. Simon Chu obtain permits.
Correct.
That's all. That's it.
Okay, here we go. He submitted, exhibit 4, senior minor, big minor.
I'm looking at Exhibit C.
No, exhibit 4.
Oh, it's marked as a C at the top.
Oh, so, yeah, it says it, yeah. Okay, so, what is, minor site development?
I can explain that if we go down to approval authority under number 1, a minor site development plan review. It includes any revisions by the planning division in our city, in the city of Hemet, that is less than 200 or 2,000 square feet. Anything over 2,000 square feet is considered a major site review.
And does the planning division issue permits?
The planning division do not issue permits, the building and safety does.
Okay. And then, so the approval that is, on the last page of exhibit C, that is approval from the planning division, not the department.
Correct. That's the approval from the planning division, correct. But not the approval to build anything. It's just the design concept, but the permit hasn't been issued at this point. Does that make sense? Okay.
No.
Yeah, cross.
Symbol called Mr. 10. All right, Mr. Chen, have you been listening into Mr. Michaelson's testimony today? And do you have any rebuttals to his conclusion? All right, and what do you have to say about it?
Like Mr. Song said, that is 6.7 earthquake about 150 years ago that demolished every building. I think just here, right here, if it's touched down, like it's not very good, especially as unreinforced techniques. And
Well, time out. So Mr. Song also testified that the building has a series of steel walls that are indicated in the wall, and that the brick is functional inside. Does that change your analysis at all on whether or not that if the two-story structure is attached to the actual building, not the facade bricks, does that change your analysis?
Restaurant said that it was steel posts attached to the ceiling wall because of the brick wall, basically brick wall. The brick is not considered the veneer, as you say, it's considered a veneer. If it's a veneer, it doesn't have value. You won't want to consider the value because that's what the issue is, because now it's a veneer. The structural element is the structural steel behind it. Where addition is not attached to the structural steel, it's attached to the veneer. And asking the veneer to carry all the load. And also you state that the grout, typical of 2,000 psi, could be stronger than the brick wall itself right now. So just give you an idea of how weak our structure is. The grout is very long. And And then also he said about the erection pattern you mentioned earlier about steel posts. Steel posts in the center. If we could have a plan to put up the second issue.
Yeah, it's this is ADP. You look at it today. I don't see it on the projector.
Is there a way to show two slides on the same screen? In a foundation plan on S1.0, there's 18 steel posts. Majority of those posts are on the outside. There's only about 3 posts in the middle. The one on the outside I showed previously on my diagram of the footings with the roof and decks on there. Majority of all lays on the edge. It does not carry the strength of the inlaid post. Therefore, we're looking at a whole entire addition to story, there's a few posts that's in the middle. And also an issue with that. The footing is 18 by 24, like Mr. Song said. You take a steel post that's 8 inches square. And the beam, the grade beam, you call it a tall grade beam, is typical 18. The footing right now is 18 by 24. It's typical for 2-story residence that we consider ceiling. But you're taking that footing, 18 inches wide, you take 8 inches out, you're going to have 5 inches on each side of that steel post that we put down.
So, my understanding of Mr. Song's testimony is, and this is kind of just a brief summary, is that as the building exists, it's not, as the structure exists, it's not compliant. And that, like, it sounds like both are in agreement that it's not compliant as the structure exists. So, that, in terms of how to modify the building in order to make it compliant, you would need permits to fit it to the left, right? Right, so the structure as it exists is not permitted, and then so now it turns to what we do about it in 1999. Is that accurate?
Correct, but I also want to stress the importance of the column because it's only a few columns that actually functions in these bare sizes. Therefore, you have a very, very weak structure. And again, it does happen someday. It could pull the CMU wall out. That's okay. Okay.
That's perfect for me.
All right, so take the matter under submission. Do you want to do closing or not?
I mean, the thing that I want to just call to attention is, A, there's been, I think, not as much bias as we'd like for a limited hearing like this, but I think that there's been enough to kind of raise that issue as to how Mr. Chu has been treated, specifically as it relates to the permit B2106-099. He submitted, it was the document that I gave you that was exactly the same as the red line version, and Mr. Javier indicated that yes, Sarah Rettmeyer changed it and resubmitted it, and Mr. Chu had obviously no indication whatsoever that that had been changed and marked out just flooring only. The other thing that I want to bring up, obviously it was from the last hearing, but the lady testified that if it is a patio, like a patio structure, that it is going to continue to be approved through the minority process, the minor site development rather than the major site development, because it wasn't expanding square footage because it was a patio. She testified to that. Mr. Strain actually sent me that clip because we were concerned that it might be an issue today. So it just went through the proper channels, and I think it's important to point out that, you know, there's this SDR 21-010. There was something submitted, and then this was the approval. And that approval essentially gets incorporated into a permit. And that specific permit is the B2106-099. So Mr. Chu did have a permit, and if you look through the documents, there's no mystery about the size of anything because it's all in there. It's in all the documents that we have provided. There was no question that where steel beams were going to be. In fact, one of the exhibits related to the minor site development was the steel beams in the ground. And so it's not like they didn't know. And this was approved, I think it was June 21st or 25th of 2021. So I think that there's an issue as to whether or not he had a permit. I think that in this particular situation, taking into consideration everything that has happened with site review, permit this, the lot changes, is it going to be 1, is it going to be 3? I think that he reasonably thought that he was permitted to do this. Now, I think that we have to concede that there are some things that were not done up to par. I think that there's been just a natural deterioration of the building that just happens from a building that's 100 years old. And I think that both structural engineers indicated that there was a way to fix that. There is a way to have the not plexiglass, but the roof, have that changed out, have the joints changed out, put in some kind of filler in with respect to the masonry. I think that there's a ton of things that could be done that would make this now compliant. I don't think that it's, and I think that you have to consider the fact that it has been red tagged for months. So that means that Mr. Chu or any of his contractors can perform any kind of work on any of the structures whatsoever. Mr. Chu has continued to submit permits. I think that there's a permit that is awaiting approval indefinitely. Then there is the merger that has been waiting for 4 years. The delay isn't him, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to get the rest of this building up and running with whatever changes or conditions that they deem appropriate. They're just not responding and giving him that information to allow him to do so. You saw pictures of the inside of that restaurant. It's a beautiful restaurant. I went in there for the first time myself today. It's ready to go. And aside from the chain link fence and the unfinished portions of the studio, or not studio, the patio, and the patio cover, it's a beautiful location, and it fits precisely within the development plan that Hemet wants. And I mean, a lot of that is already referenced in the review, and I know that we put in some exhibits just about the planning for downtown Hemet, and that fits within what the city wanted to attract people here and get new businesses in. I still believe that there's a notice issue as it relates to whatever article of chapter 14 they're referring to. I do not agree that there is not a permit, especially for 118, and unless anyone has any questions that you would like me to answer directly, I would submit. Mr. Chu has indicated he's willing to fix whatever, and taking into consideration that he's probably going to have to pull some out and have to make some repairs, especially to that masonry and the roof that is essentially warped at this point.
One question I have is, Mr. Velasco gave me a fairly tight timeline as far as the approval process. Would Mr. be able to reach that timeline?
Well, I think that the first step that has to happen is they need to make a decision on the permit that I think that is going to be kind of the litmus test of whether or not he can comply. He needs to have some kind of answer with these new plans that have been sitting on somebody's desk, and then what needs to change. I know that he is expedient and wanting to be expedient to getting that done. I don't know if Mr. Velasco's comment was after there's a decision on the permit that they haven't made a decision on, or if that is from right now until something gets fixed. But I can represent to you that he is willing to move quickly, and I know that Mr. Song has done some of the legwork already to deal with some of these issues that you have heard today regarding the safety and the internal structure of the properties. So I think that some of the legwork has been done, and whatever timelines are given, I think Mr. Chu is going to do his best to comply within those timelines.
Mr. Velasco. That's actually a good question. Like, as far as the starting point to all of that. So let's say hypothetically, the hearing order says that, they have 30 days. Is it after approval of the demo permit, or what's the trigger?
The trigger point would be, thanks for asking that question. The trigger point would be from the date we get the order to get these admin completed. That was when we start counting on time.
And it was my understanding that the hangout was functional, meaning like you're waiting for the hearing order to the hearing officer in order to approve the demo permit.
Correct.
So if I say, like, approve the demo, do I just put that in my order that you approve the demo permit? Like, what needs to happen on that level?
What I like to see on the order is that what's been approved. What's the scope of the demolition that is going to be part of that approval from you?
And if, based upon your testimony earlier, it sounded like you were okay and you were in agreement with Mr. Strand on the demo permit that he submitted.
Not in agreement. That's why I haven't approved.
And you said it's continuing.
Correct.
Okay, so let's just assume that I'm saying that's okay, letting us go move forward. Would you be okay with letting that allow you to move forward on that demo permit?
Yes.
I think what we've all heard today is, I think all parties in general agree that this structure as it exists today is unsafe and not compliant. And in fact, if we continue construction with it as it exists, it would actually increase the danger to the public. So, and there have been some allegations that against the city, bias or whatever. We have to keep in mind that the property owner decided to build the structure. The city in 2021 gave him plans and permits for a specific one-story covered patio, and instead he built this massive illegal structure. So he brought this on himself, and he must take responsibility for it. It's been 4 years. We know that this patio is deteriorating, and it will continue to deteriorate. And it's currently tied to a restaurant building, and could take down that building as well if it was a large enough earthquake. So at this stage, we cannot wait for more promises. We need results. And part of that is why we're asking for a full demolition as our third option. And as a second option, even consider hypothetically, and we don't know yet. We need some engineers to say it's impossible to get rid of this. But if that is impossible, we need a tight timeline. And because we have to remember, they've been in plan check for a while now. So they're not starting from scratch. And they had plan checks of every 40 corrections or so back in March. So it shouldn't take them that much longer to get some plans approved. So that is the city's position. Let's demo it and protect the public for sure. If repairs are possible, let's keep it a tight timeline and make sure that something gets done right away, rather than wait 4 more years.
Okay, and are you also okay with
I don't recall the exact details of this timeline. If it makes sense to the city, sure. 30 days to get this thing shored up right away, 60 days to get these plans approved, and 90 days to finish construction. I think that's